Okay, today is Monday, February 18th. The year is just zipping on by, freezing here in California. I had talked to Samantha B earlier, later in the week, or a couple days ago, and it said, you know what, I have a topic for us. We don't normally necessarily jive on our typists, but the topic that I wanted to talk about with her and with all of you is the topic of refining our craft. Now, I don't care what your craft is. It could be like a grandma, like my sister who's on the call with us. It could be like a nutrition consultant. It could be somebody who wants to run a half a marathon. It can be being a mom. It can be being a business person. I don't care what it is. We can refine our crafts every step of the way. I don't feel like we should ever be stagnant with it. So that is what the discussion is going to be today. I am taking everybody's videos off because I've had some issues with internet. I have no idea why. But we're going to get right to Samantha B and see what she has to say to motivate us today. And away we go.
This is Samantha B, and I'm actually redoing my video right now because I was at Tangent City. So hopefully this is a little bit better. I pulled back and I was like, okay, Sam, you need to bring it together. Short and sweet. I want to just make one little note that we had a couple of conversations about people asking how to stay motivated. And I did give a suggestion about a 10 breath process. I do want you guys to look at it. So if you guys look underneath Kara's post on Mama G's Lifestyle's private portal, read it. It takes 10 breaths. 10 breaths for you to just change your focus on everything being so overly
consuming,
overly unbearable to something that you can actually use. We have a couple of big things in our lives, not 1,000. You have to be able to classify the most important big things because all the little things can go away for a couple days. If life's getting really tough, the only thing that's going to make it tougher is you making it tougher on yourself, putting all kinds of expectations on yourself. Having your food and having your fitness play a role in that shouldn't make it worse. It should make it better. And if you're at the beginning of your experiment, which we don't have any newcomers right now, you need to be understanding these things. Mama G rarely gets any questions about dinners or food or regularly from people. Every once in a blue moon, somebody will ask for something. Ask her every day. Post things every day. Make it easier on you. And if you are looking for a sweet treat, your sweet treat isn't going to fulfill you. You've got to figure out what's really going to fulfill you because believe you me, it's not going to be the food. And if you're thinking that you're constantly craving all these sweet treats, then you need to do better on your food. You need to open up those micronutrients and start looking at some new recipes and spend a little bit more attention on that versus trying to find the next healthy way to eat ice cream. And if you're going to have a bite of ice cream, have a bite of ice cream and call it a day. Don't do it every day, okay? So me and Mama G wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about how we molded our craft. And I'm a fitness professional. I don't know if you guys all know, but I went to school for athletic, I got a Bachelor of Science in Sports Medicine with a focus in athletic training, which means that if I sat for the California board, I could be an athletic training, a certified athletic trainer for any team. I just chose not to take that avenue. I am an athletic trainer in Maine, but I've not one here because I just wouldn't utilize it in this capacity. So I don't really deem it appropriate for what I do. But I do have other certifications, CSCS, NASM, I do my continuing ed, but what I've learned the most with is my experience. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about I got where I am. Now, I don't want to get too much into the front. I was definitely an athlete my entire life. I started with gymnastics and dance. From gymnastics and dance, I was a field hockey player, an alpine skier. I did track, I did lacrosse. And in that whole experience, I had a few injuries. So when I was super young, I did a partial tear on my ACL. And that's the first time that I ever really started working out in the gym was when I had a partial tear on my ACL. And they told me that for a preventative form of treatment versus doing a surgery that I needed to strengthen my legs. So that's what I did. They gave me a little program that had, I can remember actually kind of vividly, and I don't always have that great of a memory when it comes to some of the childhood stuff. But I remember getting 3 sheets, and there was adductors, there were glutes, and there were quads. And I learned how to do those exercises perfect by looking at them. There was no YouTube, there was nothing. Nobody told me to text. I don't think I had a phone back then. And I just looked at the picture, I did them, and when I went back, they told me I was that much stronger, and it was a win-win. So that was the first time that I actually did anything in the gym, and I enjoyed it for sure. And from then on, I would go to the gym at any cost that I did. Now, I was actually talking to Gina today, and I remember thinking that I've always been an athlete, and I've always been pretty strong for a girl, because my friends were all guys. Most of my friends were all guys, especially on my ski team. I can remember part of my dryland training, remember that there's not snow all year around, and we lived in an area that was very rural. There was nowhere that we were going to go travel to go find snow, so we did a lot of our training on dry land, hence dryland training. So we used to carry each other on our backs up the stairs for the ski jumpers, for the aerialists. And so we would literally put somebody on our back, and we would climb up the stairs. And I used to do it with guys on my back because I was strong enough, and why not? And so my mentality, I guess, kind of was always like that. I always looked up to people. I remember being a gymnast, looking up to the girls that were in my gymnastics studio, and just wanting to be just like them, the ones that were older than me. So I would work really hard. I remember doing that in all my sports. When I skied through the state of Maine was the first time that I wasn't the best. And I needed to really focus. And if I wanted to be a professional skier at that time, I was going to need to let go of field hockey, and I wasn't ready to. So I did make a choice to let go of skiing when it came to college. So I actually went to college to play field hockey, not to do anything else. So I used to joke around and say that I mastered. What's the word? I degreed. What's the word? Oh, this is so annoying. I focused. It was not focused. I can't think of the word. Anyway, I went to college for field hockey. But anyway, so I went to college, and this was the first time that I've ever followed a plan. And so I remember the summer before I was going to tryouts, they sent me a very detailed plan. And it was like, okay, week 1, you're going to run this, blah, blah, blah. You're going to do this many push-ups. You're going to do this many sprints. You're going to dribble the ball this many times. And I didn't miss one thing. Every week I would send to my coach, okay, I did this, 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 and this. These are my times. And she never wrote back to me. And I thought, well, whatever. I guess everybody's doing it, whatever. So I show up my first day, my first try day, and I was so nervous. And it was one of the hardest workouts I've ever done. And I remember sitting in my car after crying. And at the time I thought to myself, and I called my mom and I said, I'm not the best one. And that was hard for me. And looking back on it now, I was actually not the best one, but pretty close to the best one coming in as a freshman. And I remember my coach saying in like a team bonding thing that she loved me from the beginning when she met me, because I was the only athlete that sent in their time trials for the entire summer. And I thought to myself, geez, I was the only one. Anyway, so from very early on, that first program was the first time that I showed progression. And I knew that following that program was why I started my freshman year. I knew that's why I took the spot that I did. And I knew that I benefited from working a program. Now, along with that program, I was not given very much nutrition guidance. We did eat in the hall, which had given us opportunities they always told us to eat carbs. They always told us to eat after we worked out, but it was never really prescribed to us in a way that I would assume that it's more prescribed now that they've done more research in the recovery department in all of sports. So in college, I really struggled. I was on the Depo-Provera shot very young after being a gymnast and so on and so forth. And so I never had a period for a really long time. And so come my last years as being a collegiate athlete, I was really struggling with the fact that I wasn't going to be identified with an athlete anymore. But along that time, I was also diagnosed osteopenia. And I had stress fracture after stress fracture from being in the unhappy triad, which is when you lose your period due to usually anorexia, which I was either doing without food or with exercise. And that's when I didn't know. Looking back on it now, it's so obvious to me because of the education that I've been through, but I didn't have enough experience. So I was being educated on amenorrhea, unhappy triad. I was being educated on injury prevention. I was being all this education, but I didn't have any experience. Okay, so here I am, a kid losing her identity with the athlete that she's been, and so finishing my college career, I finished with either 5 stress fractures on one of my tibias, a couple on the other, a multiple on my same hip that had the lot on that one side, and then a broken thumb. And so literally there's obviously something wrong. So once I got done field hockey, I did go and play overseas a little bit, which was some of the best times of my life, but my body was beat. I was beat from being an athlete. And it was time for me to figure out what I was going to do. I was going to be an athletic trainer. That was the plan in Maine. I wasn't planning to necessarily move to California until I was in California, and I took my internship here, and I was velocity sports performance in San Diego, and I absolutely loved it. And I trained under somebody called Stefan Alipso Bus, and he was a previous strength and conditioning coach for LSU. He actually ran a few Ironmans. The guy was super dedicated, big dude. So I was a senior in college. I remember sitting in what we used to call the huddle, and we would talk about every athlete that we interacted with every single day in a huddle about their body, about their growing, about what goals they had as an athlete, what muscles needed to be turned on and activated. And I learned so much. I mean, I was so green, but I was so ready to learn. And I loved the fact that we were doing this. And I knew that these kids were going to see such a benefit. My college career kind of ended in a way that I didn't want it to. And not that I could have played much longer anyway, but I wanted to be healthier, and I couldn't figure out why. And it wasn't until I was working for this company that I figured out why. So I learned a lot from him. I remember his dedication to detail. We used to do a lot of running biomechanics prior to our lifting sessions, and people would be standing to the side, and they would have their arm back like this, and he would literally go over to them and pick it up 1 more inch. And it was the detail to be at 90 degrees or 45 degrees, or vectors with their hips or pulling their shoulders back and making them just stand on the wall is something that I've adopted from him. And I thank God every day that I took that internship. I was an unpaid intern for 4 months, and it was a lot of work. I worked 65 hours a week. I got to go to NFL Combine. I get to work with USA Rugby, but I learned everything during this time. So I did accept a job with them as I finished my undergrad, and I started molding my craft a lot more. I get to be really hands-on with all kinds of athletes. I get the opportunity to work with professional athletes, collegiate athletes. It was so fun. I worked with a lot of post-NFL players, and looking back on it now, I probably learned that it wasn't necessarily about what you did or the education that you received, but it was about the experience that you had as an athlete, the experience that you had with your coaches, the experience that you had with your peers in the community that really made you grow. And the best thing about velocity sports performance was that I was never the smartest one there. We worked alongside physical therapists and occupational therapists, and it was such a great group. And once I received my own interns, I started learning even more. And that's why I've always loved to teach. I've always loved to educate. I've always loved my clients to understand why they're doing what they're doing. Now, at this time, I was starting to really start thinking about nutrition. And there was definitely a big push on that vegan scenario. And I did try at one point to go vegan and did it all wrong. So I definitely learned that being vegan was not a diet, as in a weight loss program. It was actually a way of life, it was a lifestyle. And I didn't understand that at that point, but I definitely had a bunch of issues with that. So you can kind of see that I definitely dealt with a lot of issues with eating, exercising too much, having big repercussions from it. But it wasn't until I was in velocity that my bone density came back. And I was no longer osteopenia, which was a blessing. And I started being able to run again, which was great. And when I started running again, I also thought that was a weight loss program. And it wasn't. I wanted to run marathons. And running marathons is not a weight loss program. And a lot of times people think that it's just because they're going to start running long distance that they're going to lose all this weight. And that was going to be the claim to say, if I run a marathon, I'm going to finally be a size 4, or whatever the desired size is. And that also really made me challenged. I would work a lot back then when I was younger, because not that I don't work it a lot now, but I definitely worked a lot back then. And I remember I would work from Monday to Saturday afternoon a lot. And I would go out Saturday night, and then Sunday I couldn't move. And I remember I doing that for years. And so at that time, I knew that my nutrition was still off, but I still couldn't figure it out. I still was following fads and following this, that, and the other thing. So I was weightlifting a lot back then. I dislocated my shoulder, which was terrible. And I stopped weightlifting because of it. It made me very scared. And I actually was leaving Velocity very soon. I went to work in a private facility that was filled with chiropractors and PTs, and I loved it there. But my boyfriend at the time, Julian Blankenberg, just accepted his new grad position at Anaheim Regional, and I decided that I was going to try to make things work with him. I was head over heels in love with him, so I decided to move to San Clemente, California with him, where I took a job at SoCal Boot Camp. Now, I had been working with the athletic population for the most of my professional career. And then I started working with a very small population of people that coincided with other chiropractors and physical therapists, which was great. I learned a lot, but I definitely wasn't learning as much as I did in Velocity. During my time in Velocity, let me rewind a little bit. I actually, towards the end, was feeling like I wasn't learning enough, and I decided to take on clientele at another gym in LA Fitness in the morning so that I could learn more about people that had disorders. So I worked with somebody with MS. I worked with somebody with testosterone deficiency. I worked with a couple of diabetic people, and then who am I missing? And then I worked with, and then I worked with somebody that I had never worked out before, and we didn't speak the same language. And so it was a really big learning curve for me. So I worked with that population, and then go with my athletes in the afternoon. So I was always working. I was always trying to get better. The experience in itself was making me a better trainer, making me able to see more. I had more experience with people that wasn't able to incorporate different, like my MS client, for example, couldn't use her hands on the ground because it used to feel like pins and needles. So we had to get really creative. So that, to me, was some of the bigger foundations of myself learning my craft. And so during that time, I never beat anyone up. I was always a conservative lifter. I was always very conservative because I came from the strength and conditioning background. It wasn't until I got to SoCal Boot Camp, when I moved up to San Clemente with Julian, that I was introduced to the HIIT training. I knew what metabolic training was, and that made sense to me, but I had never been affiliated or involved in HIIT training. So I go to SoCal Boot Camp, and I'm in a room of 30 people, which is no problem to me. I was used to working in groups, but groups of athletes. And these were now, as I viewed, non-athletes, because they were not doing anything correct. They were just doing movements to do movements, and having conversations, and not focused, and picking up dumbbells and barbells and sandbags and kettlebells, and not thinking about their spine or their posture. And when I first started working there, I was nuts. I would run to one person, run to the other person. I'd be on my knees, up and down, and I would get so tired by the end of the day because I felt like nobody knew how to do anything. And the experience was awesome to me. It also introduced me into some of the most overtraining that I've ever done. I was addicted to being a part of the group. I was addicted to the feeling of the aftermath of how it was doing. I did get very lean at one point, but I definitely wasn't eating very much. I was living off caffeine again. I just couldn't find my rhythm, and it all came back to I didn't have my diet check. So actually met Mama G at SoCal Boot Camp. I started training with her, and she was bound and determined to overtrain her mind. And I allowed it for a little while, although we did make some progressions in her movement patterns. It wasn't until we were able to pull back that we were able to really grow. But Mama G was always asked me about my big jug. I used to drink a gallon of water with Crystal Light in it. And she always said, Sam, what are you doing with that Crystal Light? And I was like, yeah, I need to drink this because, and I did need to drink it. I was taking so much caffeine. I was taking supplements to make me sweat. I was taking all kinds of things. And, but I wasn't aware of the effect of having the artificial sweetener. So Mama G used to give me a hard time about it. And then me and her both visited the same dietitian. I had been doing all kinds of different diets. I mean, I did cleanses. I did all kinds of things. I mean, look, I keep forgetting things that I want to jump back to, but long story short, I tried it all. And Mama G and I both went to the same registered dietitian, and I thought it was awesome. She also thought it was awesome, but she thought it was very confusing the way that she presented the material to us. And so she started, and she already knew so much about nutrition anyway. Both of us went in there and she was like, you don't need a multivitamin. Basically, because we ate a lot of vegetables, and I think I definitely probably wasn't eating enough carbs at that point. I wasn't eating enough smaller meals. I wasn't eating prior to working out. She changed a lot of things about my diet that were great, but it wasn't until Mama G really got involved where I really started perfecting and getting better with my nutrition. So at this time, I'm getting ready. I'm doing Spartan races. I'm lifting. I feel like I'm in great shape. I think I'm in good shape. And I have a big fall, and that's when I hurt my back. When I hurt my back, it was probably one of the biggest realizations to me that I was overtraining. And I didn't know who I was. Again, I was being identified with only being a gym person, and I was miserable. I was depressed. I didn't know how to deal with it. And I started going to physical therapy. I started doing more education about what I could do to make my back better. And it all came in full circle at this time. So then I started realizing, okay, I need to be able to do this, that, the other thing. I started adding it in. And shortly after I had Logan, and it was like I started from square one again, and bringing me to close to where I am now. I had Logan in a time where I really was ready to have a baby. I had that baby fever, that baby itch. And during that time was so hard for so many reasons. I was an athlete. I couldn't work out my first trimester. I was incredibly sick. I worked a ton during my first trimester. And by a ton, it definitely more than 40 hours. And I was just beat tired. And I used to train on top of that. And I started thinking about it. And so then once my second trimester came and I started feeling better, I started training again. And I was still in my head thinking, how did I used to manage my life? Where is my life, basically? And so then I get to my third trimester and I'm starting to get bigger and the baby's starting to come. I'm actually going through a lot of relationship problems at this time, and I'm lost. And then I have the baby and I'm in love, and I figure out the meaning of life. And I look back though in those times that it's me and Logan and those late nights and not recognizing my body right from the get-go, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get back. And I do realize though in that time that I do not want to make my whole entire life about exercise. And I don't want to make my whole entire life about depriving myself. And I want to love myself, because look what I just did. I just made this incredibly human, and I kept her safe and strong for 9 months though she's in the womb, and now she's out, and Mama G's lifestyle is growing. Mama G is already working some type of program, and then she's kind of talking to me about it, and we start massaging the idea of doing this with you guys. And I've had so much experience with so many people when it comes to fitness, and Mama G's had so much experience and so much information when it comes to nutrition, and we both obviously communicate a lot considering we're best friends. But so we start really kind of conversing. We make and mold into this program. And so here we are, and we have both done all kinds of bad things to our bodies, but we've also figured out a lot of good things for our bodies, and we're finally living. I lost my baby weight fast, probably faster than I would do it again, because I had a hard time understanding that my body would go back, but it has, and I'm stronger than I've ever been by eating and exercising and not exercising every single day, trying to kill myself. And the moral of this story is this, that it is a choice every single day that I'm going to wake up and I'm going to be Samantha B, but the choice is not hard for me to make. I could not be happier with my clients that give me this incredible sense of satisfaction to even be allowed to train with them regularly. I am so proud to be in front of you guys right now, sharing my story with you so that you will understand that every single day is not easy. Every single day is still a choice, but guess what? It's a better choice than to go back to the old Samantha B, who used to beat herself up, not have time for a life, a family, or anything else. That maybe at times is a little bit leaner, but I'll tell you right now that leaner isn't always going to make you 100% happier. I am healthier. I haven't had a broken bone, knock on something, for a long time. I suffered so many injuries when I was overtraining. I suffered so many things that could have went really bad, being penia when I was just in my 20s. I could have had osteoporosis in my 30s. I could be right now osteoporosis if I didn't change that around. There's things that you cannot fool around with. And it's one of the things that you cannot fool around with is yourself. So when you choose to pick a program and you choose to follow somebody that is on Instagram or whatever, look at them as their whole. Do they have a social life? Do they have a family? Do they have time to sit down and talk with you? Because if they do, then that's great. But most of the time, people are looking to look like people. That this is their entire life. I used to strive to look like a girl. Her name was Michelle Lewin. Oh, I would have done anything. Well, not anything because I didn't get a boob job. But her body to me was, if I looked like her, I was going to be successful and happy. You know what? I'm pretty happy with being Samantha B. And whether my body is perfect or not, whether I've got hernias coming out of the front of my body or I've got hemorrhoids from forever ago, I'm still happy with who I am. And that's what makes it easier. And even though some days when bed is a little bit too comfy and work seems like it's work, I still feel better at the end of the day because of what I do and who I am and what I choose to put in my life. So whether you got from this that I'm nuts and I've overtrained my entire life and I finally figured it out at age 31 or whatever, that I've only been living this lifestyle, very short. I haven't been living this lifestyle for 15 years. I've been living this lifestyle for every day it changes. Every day it gets better. I haven't stopped learning. I follow Quinn Hinoch, who is just blowing my mind with what he's doing with rehabilitation advice for athletes returning back to sport. I believe in Pilates and the health of the spine and its segmental mobility from the lumbar spine to your cervicals. I believe in understanding each muscle group and what the pattern is in order for it to work appropriately. I believe that each athlete is different, but I do believe that each athlete needs to incorporate the following 3 macros, and they are strength training, mobility, and cardiovascular exercise. And in order for you to stay and live in a body that's healthy, that by understanding those macros is really important. I would hope that everybody would do LifeWOD. I wish that LifeWOD was what you did every day for exercise and they did a strength training program on top of it. That would be great. But not all of you want to do it, and that's fine. But unless you are seeing progress, then please ask more questions or find somebody to help you figure out some progress. And you're right. Some people that don't live next to us in Southern California, that I'm not saying I'm the best trainer in the world. There are plenty of trainers that are incredible. But I want you to find somebody that is not standing still, that is not just making you do the same things without getting any progress. If you're not seeing any progress, you are doing no good. Even if you're not the strongest that you could be. You are not the most mobile that you could be. And I'm not talking about strength in the outcome of lifting 3 times your body weight. I'm talking about the strength of your core, the strength of your upper back, being able to manipulate positions, holding positions. That's what I'm talking about. So I think that I'm about time. And I can't wait to hear about how Mama G get to the place where Mama G is. But I'll tell you that Samantha B is not ready to quit. I am going to keep learning today, tomorrow, and the next. I'm going to use everything that I've learned in the past to help move me forward into the trainer and coach that I hope that I am. And I want you, most of all, to look at yourself not only as somebody that's becoming better for the rest, but as an athlete. Because if you are choosing to live a long and healthy, independent life, it takes an athlete. Because life is hard and it's challenging, and you need to sometimes put your exercise in the back. Sometimes you need to put your exercise in the front. But you need to be able to find what it needs to take to get you to a place where you are in control of your life. And whether that means that you need to ditch the cookies and not buy any Girl Scout cookies this year, or buy them for your neighbor instead of yourself, then you need to figure out what it needs to take. I am more than happy to talk about any other topic that comes down to amenorrhea or stress fractures or anything. But until you figure out what it is that you need to work on, it's really hard to help. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am Samantha B, and you are better for the rest.
Beautiful job.
All right, tonight is.
I am failing.
This is Samantha.
Jiminy crickets. Sorry, guys. Okay, here we go. Voila, here I am. Okay, so I've shut everybody's cameras off because, as I mentioned earlier, I'm having a little bit of difficulty with my transmission, and I don't know why, but I seem to be okay right now. So great story, Samantha B. Learned things that I didn't even know about you, so that was awesome. And I think it's a great topic, and so I don't want to spend too much time, but we'll just go back a little bit. Didn't really have the chance to be an athlete when I was a kid, but always wanted to be. I mean, we were playing, ball in the street, and we'd go over to like the baseball fields, and I'd always want to pretend like I was on a team, but I didn't ever have the opportunity. There was probably things I could have done, but my parents weren't really into all that, so they never pushed me towards it. But I always wanted to do it, and then my sister, who was 16 years older than me, like a second mother, who I spent most of my time with when I was away from school, had 3 boys, and I was only 7 when my oldest nephew was born. So I kind of grew up with them. I was kind of like their second mother as well, and they joined the swim team. And so I was exposed to those kids swimming and being competitive and watching my sister, crazy cheerleader on the pool deck, took over for her in time. And then I had an opportunity before I went into high school to join the swim team. Now, I was terrible. You join the swim team when you're in 8th grade, let me tell you what, you haven't had all that experience those little kids have had. And I was terrible, but I had a sport now. And when I went to high school, I joined the swim team, and it was wonderful. I still was terrible. They had the ratings for swimming was like, you had the novice swimmers, which was like C level, and then B, and then A. If you got an A time, it was a big deal. And you got double A and triple A, and then junior Olympics and nationals and all that. I was definitely like at the BC meets. But it was okay because I was motivated and passionate, and I had so many friends from my swimming segment of life, and I still have some of those friends today. So I loved being an athlete. That's kind of where I first started as Mama Regina. They called me Mama Fridella, maybe they called me. I forget, Mama Regina, Mama Fridella. I would bring the food. Wasn't always so healthy back then. But then I struggled with a little bit of anorexia after swimming ended, and all that activity goes away, and you're not necessarily eating things that are good for you. And so I found I had a little control with holding food, and it became a little bit of a power thing. And that's kind of how the emotional side of eating disorders take place. But so I struggled with anorexia. I weighed 98 pounds soaking wet. Now I'm little, but I'm not that little. And I remember going back to my high school reunion at 10 years, and people saying, "Oh my gosh, you look so much better. So glad you're not skinny like you used to be." And I was like, "Oh, I thought I looked so good. My hip bones stuck out, my collarbones stuck out." But then I struggled on the opposite of that with some binge eating when I got to college. I was only just 17 when I went to college, and you do a lot of stupid things in college, and ended up fasting for 10 days, literally did nothing but drank water, and then didn't follow the protocol for after you fast, where you little by little bring foods back, and then you go back to the binge eating. And let me tell you what, I gained the freshman, maybe 35. I weighed more my first semester of the end of my freshman year, and I had mononucleosis as well, than I weighed when I was 9 months pregnant with Mary. And with Mary, I gained the most of my weight, which was only maybe 35 pounds. But I weighed more my freshman year, first year of college, than I did when I was 9 months delivering pregnant with Mary. And that's when I met my husband. I was just pulling out some pictures, and when I was little cute little chups of cheeks, not like Olivia. And then I got serious. I remember joining a gym and getting a little more serious with my exercise and thinking more about my food. And then decided that after I became a chef's apprentice, and deciding that I was not going to spend the rest of my life working in a restaurant, working holidays and weekends. All the chefs I knew were alcoholics, and they smoked like crazy. And I had to work Christmas Day the first year we were married, and I knew that I had to get out of it. So I went on to get my bachelor's in dietetics, and I learned a whole hell of a lot about nutrition. I didn't go on to become a registered dietitian at that time, because I made a decision with my husband to start a family. And so while I did move on to become a fitness professional, I used to teach group exercise classes, aerobics, low impact, high impact, circuit classes, step classes. It was awesome, and it was wonderful, and I loved it. And I would lift super heavy weights with my mentor, who was a personal trainer, and got into personal training, and always used my nutrition education with my clients for 30 years, until here we are today, when Mama G decided to go back to school to get her master's in nutrition. And man, has it been life-changing. So, my topic of conversation for us tonight was about refining your craft. I have continuously been refining my craft, whether it was myself as a fitness professional and now as a nutrition expert, or whether it was me as just this fitness person, because I have exercised consistently since I got pregnant with my daughter Mary, who is going to be 32 years of age. You're catching me there. And it was just very consistent. The food aspect of thing has changed. While I have been very consistent in terms of being able to manage my weight, we have so much more available to us in terms of nutritious and delicious foods. We have so much more knowledge now about nutrition as well, but we also, because of social media and the internet, are inundated with people who call themselves nutrition or fitness experts, and they really know this much. And I'll tell you what, you have this much knowledge, you can do a lot of harm, a whole hell of a lot of harm to people and yourself. And so for all of those years, I'll tell you what, I have always, even when I wasn't in a gym setting, or I was the director of personal training in a woman's gym, I was still working out with people. Friends would come to my house. I had what is now my boudoir right next door to my bedroom. Used to be my husband's office. Then it was an exercise room. Now it's my closet in my blah, blah, blah room. It's very nice. I enjoy it very much. But the point being is, people have always been with me through exercise, because two things. Number one, I've been consistent my entire adult life exercising. Exercising was not part of my life unless I was on bed rest for 5 months straight, and I was not allowed to move a muscle unless I was post-surgery or, very ill, right? So point being is that Samantha just texted me, and I'm like, I can't, totally 100% distracted me. Oh, poor Logan's got a fever. I think she's got TT's coming in. But point being is people were drawn to me, especially when they can get, a free personal trainer and exercise with me. So for me, I loved having people with me. It kept me entertained. I dictated what that exercise looked like, so I always had a little control over what was going on. And it was really the best of both worlds. Until then, I started to do some group exercise with a friend of mine who actually is in the same facility Samantha is in. She's my third friend to be in that facility. I said 3 times the charm. But started to do some TRX classes, very specific type of exercise, more what we would call HIIT training, where you're more metabolic. You get your heart rate up and you do some light, weight type of things. And then I ended up going to boot camp because somebody invited me over there, and that's where Samantha B was training. And I used to watch her with her clients. And after I had gone through what did I go through? What did I go through after my bladder cancer? And then I joined boot camp. And then I started training with Sam the TRX. But I started training with Sam in April of 2014. We are having our 5-year anniversary. Samantha, I think we should do something really fun for that. Coincides with my birthday. But I started training with Samantha B. And I had no idea what she had, expectations. I had gone through significant surgeries with prophylactic mastectomy and all kinds of issues with that, which happened at the end of 2013. And so she was the one who was going to bring me back. And guess what? She has made me better, stronger, faster. But as soon as I got a taste of that strength component back, which I had done in my late 20s and early 30s, and I loved it. And then a friend of ours, asked me to join the Spartan team that Samantha B was part of. It's like, me? Like, you think me, little old me, could do a Spartan race? I didn't even know what it was. I signed up for a Spartan beast, right? The big bad boy of Spartan races, somewhere between 13 to 15 miles, 30 plus obstacles. As soon as somebody said to me, Mom G, you going to do this? And I said, if you think I can do it, I'm going to do it. And so then the overkill happened, right? I'm training with Samantha B 2 days a week to do some strength training to allow me to regain my upper body strength, get some mobility in my back, which had always been a problem, gain some leg strength, and then started Spartan racing, and then started getting a group of people to race with us. And then fast forward, remember, I ended up breaking everything, falling off the monkey bars in a race at the end of 2014, had to have reconstructive surgery again, because I was dealing with infection issues on my breast. I had hurt my elbow and had elbow surgery. So I had 5 surgeries in about 15-week period of time. And so by the time that all ended, not only was I incredibly depressed, was I pretty much out of shape. I was not overweight at all, because when Mama G is under stress, Mama G doesn't eat. So people were force feeding me. And then, came back to Samantha B with the motivation that I knew I was going to be doing a Spartan Beast 9 months post-surgery with the approval of my physical therapist and orthopedic surgeon, and our goal was to get stronger. But Mama G figured if 2 days a week was good with Samantha B, then doing more than that would be even better. So I hired a friend of ours who is a Spartan racer and a trainer, and I was working with him 2 days a week and going to boot camp. And pretty much, as Samantha B, would say, I was killing myself in the gym. And my body wasn't responding very well to it. I really wasn't doing anything well. And there came a point in time when I had to make a decision, really what my goal was. And I had 2 trainers with completely different philosophies. And at that point in time, I had to make a decision on what my goal was and who I felt was maybe more in line with helping me reach my goals. And needless to say, Samantha B, won out on that. Not to say that my other trainer wasn't great. He did a beautiful job in terms of preparing me for Spartan races, worked, again, more of a metabolic hit mentality, but we did do more Spartan specific things, which were useful, but really the goal was to be able to be consistent with my exercise for the rest of my life, hopefully a long life, to be able to be successful in whatever I chose to do. And then I started to change up things. I said, well, right now my goal is going to be to run a marathon. So I did run a marathon. My goal was, a couple of years back when I turned 50, to run a half marathon, and then to run the 3 marathons in the year, kind of like a little trifecta thing. So it's really important to understand what your goal is. And my goal is not your goal. And so I'll segue to the point where people will say, well, but Mama G, I could never do what you do. I don't expect you to have any desire to do what I do. Number one, I have had a lot of life experiences, traumas, obstacles, where I do what I do because of those things, right? We talk about why you eat the way you eat, perhaps because of some baggage in your childhood and adolescence and adulthood with food, right? So we all have our baggage, and my baggage has to do with my life experiences. And I always say that I'm either running for my life or I'm running from my life, and I'm not sure which one it is. But in terms of my physical activity, remember, before my life traumas, I was a consistent exerciser. So I have always appreciated the value of exercise, the value of taking care of old ticker. I have a little bit of vanity involved, so I always enjoy having a lean, muscular physique. But there was finding that fine line between overkill and being more moderate, so that I actually have the ability, fortitude, stamina, and capability of doing this for the long haul, right? We talk about being better for the rest and for living a long, healthy, independent life. So the beauty of it is, while Samantha B gave me so much in terms of my exercise and fitness and bringing me back to reality and getting my head straight with all of that, and I was able to gift her with my nutrition knowledge and my 55 years of life experiences. So we really have meshed together. The beauty of it is that we continue to grow the process. So now within Mama G's lifestyle, we started a certain way, right? We started me doing this experiment for several years with people, just to experiment on what the experiment would look like, right? It's like, okay, so let me gather a few friends or a few people I know who are struggling with their weight, and let's play this game. And so we did. And then as we go, we start to refine it. And then what I learned from people is that people wanted me to just tell them what to eat. Well, I have a very strong philosophy that I am not going to tell you what to eat. But I will guide you. And so that's initially why we look at your food diaries, right? To kind of see what you're drawn to. And then why I want to look at food diaries on a daily basis for those of you who are working the experiment or clients who are looking to make changes, right? Who are working with us on a regular basis. See, Samantha text me again, and now she got me distracted. So I'm going to write down what she just said, and I will emphasize that in a moment. But 100% have lost my train of thought. Okay. So with the experiment and refining what it looks like. And now, even now, I told you last week that I was really contemplating if what we're doing in the Mama G lifestyle is working, number one, if people are interested in it, number two. Well, I know the Mama G lifestyle works. Samantha B and I live it. And I know it works. I pretty much enjoy everything that I'm putting in my mouth. I feel satisfied. I never feel deprived. I'm making progress. So that's what Samantha B wanted me to talk about, is that you actually want to make progress. I always tell people, like, our bodies crave homeostasis, all right? Like, in terms of at the biochemical level, like, our bodies want to be in homeostasis. We want to be consistent with our blood sugar, right? We don't want spikes in blood sugars. We don't want spikes in hormones. We want to just be at homeostasis at the biochemical level. As human beings, I think it's relevant that we will always want to progress. We want to progress in our knowledge. We want to progress in our relationships. We should want to always progress in our capabilities. And so you really do want to think about progressing in terms of your fitness and in terms of your nutrition, not only knowledge, but capabilities. And so that's the beauty of kind of living this moderate kind of lifestyle where, as Samantha B talked about, the fitness macros didn't exist prior to us kind of coming together and trying to build a program for you guys within the Mama G lifestyle with the cardiovascular component, the strength component, and the mobility component. It's really not done out there. We really do have something special where we're not just saying, go out there and kill it with the cardio and burn as many calories as you can, and it needs to be done every day. We're saying, take a deep breath. You need some days of rest. We want you to be active. That's what we talk about. Samantha B talks all the time about what active recovery looks like and all of those things, all the little acronyms my husband used. Like, so what are you doing today for your life? Well, I'm doing lists. I said, a low intensity, steady state. He's like, I've never heard that before. And I'm like, holy crud, Mark, who's an owl? Let's get into the 21st century. Let's try a little life wadding. But there's so many ways to go about this. But what we really know from our personal experiences, which totals some, let's go. I started doing this in my mid-20s. Sam started doing this in her early 20s. We got like 40-something years of experience here, people. Take advantage of it. But the point being is, from our personal experiences with ourselves, personal experiences with family and friends, and with our clients, we kind of have a very good idea of what this should look like. So, the cardio component's critical, right? Got to exercise the old ticker. You got to get those lungs. We got to get oxygen and blood supply and all of these things through all the parts of our body. If you don't use it, you will lose it. The strength component, you cannot deny it. I have a new client that has osteoporosis, just diagnosed. You cannot deny the need for weight-bearing exercise, the pull and pull forces that are happening when you do strength training, the weight bearing that we get from walking and being on the treadmill or being on a Stairmaster. It doesn't happen on a bike. It doesn't happen on an elliptical. It doesn't happen on a rower, but it happens in different activities in life. And then the mobility segment. Holy crap. I see people that are my age and older walking around so stiff and so cumbersome and so unable to live life. I mean, Lisa Photo, let's look at you and your inability to get down and up off the ground with any sort of capability, and this desire that you wanted to be able to ski with your grandkids, which requires all kinds of cardiovascular and strength and mobility all in one particular sport. And now look at you. Holy smokes, folks. I mean, it's the real deal. And then we add in the nutrition component here, and we see progression with that as well, because, we got to start with baby steps, right? We got to teach you, that you got to think about calories. No matter what, calories count, all right? There is a calories in versus calories out. And I'm going to say for the majority of our clients, for Gen Pop, once we can establish, amount of calories that, we're not starving you and you're not feeling deprived, but, seem to be working for us to reach a goal of getting you to a healthy weight, really is one of our big number one goals, is we want you to be at a weight that is healthy, right? That's going to help reduce your risk of heart disease, stroke, cancers, diabetes, and the like. Number one, where is that healthy weight for you? Number two, we work within those macronutrients because the macronutrients are critical, right? Carbohydrates, and you know what those carbohydrates look like. I don't need to tell you. Beautiful, one ingredient, single ingredient, beautiful plant-based carbohydrates give you the energy to get through your day, provide all of the bodily functions that need to occur because of those carbohydrates in your body at the biochemical level, let alone the protein for building and repairing and maintaining muscle and all the cofactors that they produce to make all the biochemical relationships happen in your body, as well as the healthy fats doing the same thing. I can't even reiterate at the biochemical level. You have no idea, and you don't want to know because, wow, it is overwhelming. So Mama G dumbs it down for you because you don't need to get your master's degree in nutrition to be able to utilize nutrition in a nutritious and delicious way in your life. That's why I'm here for you. But and then we go from there and we start to, kind of talk about what food groups and how that looks like in your life and what you enjoy and how we want to maybe eat things on a more regular basis in those plant groups and how we eat maybe less of certain other foods. So, there's that whole thing that takes time for us to get in sync with, right, with the Mama G lifestyle. But then you look to some of our clients, a small segment of our outliers, right? So you got that bell curve, and then we've got a little bit of the clientele, a small portion, 10% of our clients that sit in that outlier portion where they just are not being successful with the Gen Pop plan. Now, the Gen Pop plan is customized to you. But now we've got this segment of the population now that are not seeing success when they follow the Mama G lifestyle with the food and the fitness, right? And, trying to reduce stress and all of those things we talk about on the road, a bit more sleep, drink enough water, blah, 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 blah. But those outliers sit there. And guess what? Mama G is refining her craft. Mama G has now been spending some time with a registered dietitian who specializes in these individuals who kind of have a couple different things happening. They are what we consider insulin resistant. They likely have metabolic syndrome, so they are likely potentially struggling with prediabetes or diabetes. They have pear-shaped bodies, so they carry their weight in their midsection. They have thinner legs and thinner extremities, but the midsection is where they carry their fat. And so guess what? Mama G has now had to refine her craft, working with that segment of our clients. And now I'm going to be starting a new group with those individuals because I now have the tools that I need to help that population. I didn't need it before. The majority of our clients work perfectly well within Gen Pop and being able to work the lifestyle the way I want you to. But now with this small segment, I've had to refine my craft. I've had to really get in there, and I've had to refine my craft in the last year in so many ways with patients who have celiac disease or who have gluten intolerance or who have ulcerative colitis or osteoporosis. Or today I have a new client that I'm going to take on who has high iron, which is called hemochromatosis. It's hereditary. And we have to look at their nutrition. We also have to take some medical interventions to deal with that as well. But the beauty of it is that Mama G, through her master's degree, has gained the tools and the resources and the people that I need in my life to help me provide this education to you guys. And I can't even tell you how fulfilling it is, because I will tell you, at almost 56 years of age, I didn't know what this part of my life would look like. I know that a lot of my friends who are in their 50s and 60s are talking about retirement. And I will tell you this, I'm never retiring. I'm never retiring from being an athlete. I'm never retiring from being a nutrition expert. I only plan to progress myself in a logical, moderate way with a goal of, here's my new hashtag, saving one family at a time, bringing people back around the table, and doing it around nutritious and delicious food and movement. And so there's so many exciting things to come within the Mama G lifestyle. And what you need to walk away with, that there should be so many exciting things to come in your life. Whether you're somebody who's newly married, thinking about starting a family, whether you're an empty nester, thinking about what this second half of life is going to be as a Grammy and as a nutrition expert and as having a business and all of these things, you have to refine your craft. You have to be willing to understand that you're going to put this away for now and start something else. My daughter is on maternity leave from being a professor in a nursing program as a critical care nurse. It's put away. And right now her entire focus is on raising her beautiful baby Olivia, and now taking the time to regain her strength and body composition that she had, pre-pregnancy. And like with Samantha B, imagine that you know that you can actually be stronger and better at every facet of your life. I don't care what your age. Look at cousin Christy, who's coming back to California in a couple weeks, and so you'll be hearing and seeing more of her as well. So, phew. That is it. Samantha B was dealing with Logan, who isn't feeling well tonight, but if she is around, I will take a moment to let her unmute herself. If not, I will sign up for the both of us. But I want to encourage you all to make sure that you take a peek at the weekly roundup that you get via your email. You will always have at least one new recipe in there, delicious and nutritious. It always gives you some thoughts and tips and Facebook Lives and other links that you might need. Try to take advantage of Mama G recipes. I do want to hear from you guys in terms of what you need from me with videos. I know I have a new client who said it took her 2 hours to make one of my soups. And you want to know what the problem was? Her kitchen skills, her cutting skills. So it just reminded Mama G is that I got to spend a little more time doing a little more videos for you. Maybe it's just chopping vegetables for a 10, 15-minute segment, right, to help you. And what Samantha B will always tell you, she said to me, I'm killing the kitchen game now because I have practiced and practiced and practiced and listened and asked and watched, and she has now refined her cutting skills. And once you can refine those cutting skills, your chopping skills, your life will change in the kitchen. So in that case, if you don't want to refine your kitchen skills, go to Trader Joe's or Whole Foods or Sprouts and buy the Trinity, the cut up celery, carrots, and onions already done for you, and just weigh and measure them, and voila, you too can be a gourmet chef eating nutritious and delicious. So Samantha B will always say to you, it's about being better for the rest, and Mama G always says, it's not about what you lose, folks. It is all about what you gain. Have a beautiful evening. Take care, Mama G ears.